Hey, what is up, spiritual hooligan? What would you do if you were fearless? What would you cancel? What would you stop doing? Who would you call? What would you take off of the someday list and put onto the right now list? Would you quit that job that is degrading for you? Would you cancel a relationship with someone that isn't working for you? I've got 8 keys to fearless living, and today this is the fifth daily enlightenment in a series that will help you to connect with enlightened perspectives. Because when you do that, you're on your way to fearless living. And this is a set of ideas that I work with in my private mastermind group to make sure that they can live with enlightened prosperity. So I'm excited to share these ideas with you. My name is Matthew Ferry, and I'm bringing you your daily enlightenment. It's your moment to pause, to slow down, and to get connected to enlightened perspectives. I want to help you to quiet your mind and restore your peace. Fearless living. This is an expression of enlightenment. Enlightenment really is this recognition that the source of life for you is the source of life for everyone and everything. And when you truly connect with that recognition, your mind goes quiet. And then your fear disappears. And when your fear disappears, suddenly you are in this very pragmatic state where you're not being emotional. You're being extremely rational and logical in your process. You're not getting taken out by the hallucinations that are flashing through your mind, that create the stress, they create the worry and the doubt and the figments of your imagination about how the future is going to be bad. All that stuff fades to the background. So let's talk about number 5 in this series of fearless living today, which is to develop fearless speaking. So fearless speaking. Your life is what you say to yourself and others about yourself, others, and situations. Let me say that again. I want this to sink in. Your life is what you say to yourself and others about yourself, others, and situations. Now, if your life is just what you say, then why not start saying things that are empowering and feel good? And this is not about putting your head in the sand. It's not about lying. It's not about positive thinking. It's not about smothering, ice cream over a mud pie. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is effective contextualization. And this is part 4 of the rapid enlightenment process, which is recontextualization, the skill of describing the conditions and the circumstances of your life in a way that create an empowering reality for you. But it's not just creating an empowering reality for you on the inside. It's also creating an empowering reality for you on the outside. So many of my spiritual friends are amazing at creating an incredible inner state for themselves and really crappy at creating an effective outer state for themselves. And what I'm proposing in my work is that it is a combination of both of those things. That you must be effective on the inside and effective on the outside, enlightened prosperity. Prosperity means you're doing well. It's not financial. That's like the modern version of prosperity, but the actual meaning of prosperity is doing well. Enlightened means you recognize that all is well, and prosperity means that you're doing well. The problem is that if you're only recognizing that all is well and you aren't doing well out here in the world will constantly disrupt your all is well. So let me give you some examples from a fearless speaking standpoint. How people know you massively influences what you can do, who you can be, what you experience, how people know you. So I'm just wondering if you can reflect with me. What are your conversations about these days? What are you talking about these days? Are you someone that says things and then things happen? Are you someone who is talking about the past all the time? Are you someone who's pointing out how everything is wrong? Are you a dreamer? You're speaking about the future, but then you can't be counted on? Are you someone who people can count on? Like when you give your word to something, do you make it happen? And the number one key to fearless living, all the way back at we're on number 5 now. So number 1 was about knowing. And knowing, one of the keys to knowing is reliability, where you know that you're reliable. So the question that I have for you is, what can you be counted on for? Can you be counted on for bitching about politics or being arrogant or making other people wrong for not following your beliefs and your spiritual practices? Or are you someone who can be counted on for total and complete acceptance of all people in all situations at all times, including yourself? So you want to think about it in this way. The speed at which your visions that are coming through you, and we've talked about this idea that you are what is being created. So these ideas that you have about what you want and where you're going and how to, all the stuff that you're creating, it's not stuff that you're creating. You are what is being created. So the ability, the speed at which what is being created comes through is related to the expectations that people have of you. So you create their expectations with your speaking and with what you're doing. And this sets up the way that people listen to you in the future. So it paves the road for either ease and flow, or hard and painful, or, staggering and not really working and just like, go, stop. So you want to think about it in this way. You're not an actual victim of your life or your circumstances. You're actually a victim of the prison that you've created with your words and then your corresponding actions, right? Your words and your actions, when they match together, what you find is it's your world goes into an easy, effortless, enjoyable state, which makes it so much easier to be at peace. Oh my God, I hope you can get this. This is it right here. Organizing your world effectively, which is really what this fearless living sequence is all about. Organizing your world effectively makes it so much easier to be at peace. I don't think you're going to live in a cave. I think you're committed to living in the world. And if you're committed to living in the world, you need to get your shit together, is really what it comes down to. Otherwise, you're constantly out of balance. Now, most of the people that I meet don't know how people listen to them. And that's because you haven't been paying attention to what you say. Oftentimes, our speaking is automatic, it's habitual, it's a reaction, it's driven by the hidden motives to survive: greed, grudge, hatred, victim, illogical rules, humble, traitor, victim, pride, resistance. Go look at my book, Quiet Mind, Epic Life, chapters 18 through 28. And I just want you to start to look at, well, what is driving my speaking? Our speaking is filled with survival motives. We're trying to prove things. We're trying to look good. We're trying to manipulate. And what that does is it creates a little more chaos in your world, and that disrupts your peace. You can only do what your environment expects of you. You can only do what your environment expects of you. Now, that immediately makes some people go like, whoa, I'm a victim of my environment. Wrong. You're a victim of your words and your actions, and they are not matching. Because when you give your word to something and then you do it, suddenly you get a lot of runway from people. You get a lot of latitude from people. When you are bitching, moaning, complaining, see, you've accidentally created people's expectations in the past through complaints. So they're holding you accountable to the things that you've complained about, and you don't even know it. To your gossip, they are secretly feeling like you're judging them because you judge other people. Your opinion that you give on everything, even though there's so many things you give an opinion on, you know nothing about it, but you say it like you know. Describing things, right? You're like, well, I'm just telling it like it is. No, I'm sorry. You're telling it like you see it, but you don't own it like you see it. You say it like that's the way it is, and what you don't know is you're creating a prison for yourself. Your lack of responsibility for how your life is going, saying it's out there versus it's in here, that creates a prison. Rehashing the past. Telling your life story about when you don't understand and my parents and blah, 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 creates a prison for you. Your false modesty, your humbleness is actually just you being arrogant but scared about it. Blaming and guilt, self-deprecation, all these things create the prison of the life that you're living in. Now, so many of my students ask me, Matthew, I really want my life to work out. I really want my life I want all these ideas that I have about how life can be to come about, but it's hard. It doesn't seem to work. Life doesn't seem to cooperate. And so I want you to think about it in this way. Here's what happens. A new idea comes through, how you want to change or shift your life. So you set an intention to change or shift your life, right? And then you come up with some kind of plan. You say, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go A, B, C, D, E. Then you start telling people about what you're doing naturally, right? People, what are you up to? I'm trying to make this thing happen, blah, blah, blah. So you set an intention, you create a plan, you start talking to people, tell them what you're doing. But here's the thing. People don't actually believe you because you're like trying to make this change, and the change is different from what they know you as. So you're trying to go over here. You're trying to shift your life into peace and joy and flow. You're like, I'm reading these books and I'm learning how to be more spiritual and I'm trying to go into a state of acceptance. And people are like, yeah, you're a judging jerk. You know what I'm saying? They don't believe you. So you don't get any support. And then what happens is you start doubting. You start freaking out. The mind starts beating you up. So it's like this. You start to make these changes, and the environment resists the changes. And the resistance creates disruption inside of you. Then your mind starts going crazy. And now you start speaking your doubt into the environment. You start speaking your doubt into the environment. And guess what? Then the environment responds. And then you have to do it all on your own, which is really hard. And the thing is that you try to elicit change, you try to elicit agreement from your environment, right? Your family's like, shut up. They have all this history with you. But if you want to make the big changes in your life, you have to do it through fearless speaking, and then have your actions meet with your speaking. And then you have to do it over and over and over and over. In fact, if I'm just being honest here, what there is to do is to go back and to watch these 8 videos over and over and over, or listen to these 8 podcasts over and over and over. These 8 things that I'm talking about create fearless living. So here's my request. Today, will you talk about what you want? Will you speak about your life in a context that tells people that all is well? Will you do that? This isn't about putting your head in the sand. This isn't about seeing things in a false way. It's about recontextualization. It's about, for example, learning versus failure. Convert what you don't want into what you do want. Speak with more optimism. Speak with more vision. Talking about the past recommits you to doing it. What you talk about is what people will start to expect of you. And so if you just keep talking about what you're committed to, how you want to adjust your life so that it's easy, effortless, and enjoyable, if you'll just talk about it, make promises, make commitments, create accountabilities, create structure, it's going to blow your mind how you can shift the environment to support your all is well state. So my question for you today is, what stuck out for you? What will you change in your speaking today so you can activate your fearless living or leaving, either one? Leave me a comment. That's what I wanted to say, is leave me a comment. Living, leaving. You see that? Leave me a comment. My name is Matthew Ferry, author of Quiet Mind, Epic Life, and I would love for you to like this Daily Enlightenment. You watched it all the way through. You listened to it all the way through. Come on, like this Daily Enlightenment. Share it with the people in your life. Comment. Those are the things that tell these big platforms this is content worth spreading into the world. Subscribe to my channel. I put out a new Daily Enlightenment every single day. Come over and visit us in the Spiritual Hooligans Facebook group, and I will put the link down below for you. Thanks again for tuning in to this Daily Enlightenment.